Thank you for joining. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller, and I'm here with our guest today, Levi Meyer from Compass Real Estate. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here in the community newspaper studio.
So I noticed that you're a founding agent at Compass. What does that mean?
Well, it just, I guess what they call it is OG. I'm one of the original gangsters. So yeah, Compass is now a national brand of 36,000 agents from Florida, New York, and all the way to the West Coast. When I joined Compass, there were less than 1,000 in the entire country. I think it was 700 and some odd, and less than 30 in the state of Florida. We now have over 3,300 in the state of Florida.
So there was something that you saw way before a lot of people. What is it that you saw in the potential of Compass as an organization and you as an agent working with them?
So they were the only brokerage that I had met with yet that was focused on the agent and focused on changing the industry itself. Right? It wasn't just focused on money and revenues, and it was focused on taking really great agents and making them even better. And they were listening. You know, what can we do to make your job better so that you can service your clients better? And even the way they framed the language is like your clients, right? A lot of brokerages have there's this misconception that this home seller is a client of the broker, when in fact they're really the client of the agent. And the agent should be the client of the broker, and the broker's job is to serve the agent. I think that's what Compass brought to the table. Outside of that, it was technology, innovation, collaboration, and so it was a very forward-thinking concept that now there are brokerages coming along and kind of getting in line. But before that, there weren't many brokerages that I could see that had such a forward-thinking thought process.
So in the many years you've been with Compass, we've seen a huge change in the Miami real estate market. What has been going on the last couple of years that's changed, and why is it changing so rapidly?
The age-old question is, how's the market?
Yes.
Right? Well, I mean, Miami. I've been saying for over a decade. I've been telling people to get into Miami and that it's about to burst. It's just going to explode, and that we were in this adolescent phase and about to move into the next phase of our life in Miami. The development that you're seeing downtown, the growth of that corridor between Wynwood, the Design District, Brickell, Edgewater. I mean, I don't think people quite realize how much that skyline has emerged. The restaurant scene, the entertainment scene, the quality of life, all those things I think have always been playing into it. But taxes started playing a really big role into that. And I think we started to get a lot of people moving to South Florida as a tax haven. So people were moving out of states like New York and California and starting to come at least 6 months a day in the state of Florida for tax benefits. Politics played a big role in that. Depending on which side of the fence you sit on, makes no difference to me. But there's no argument that the state of Florida has some very strong political views that resonate with a lot of people that decide to make this their home. So I think all of that, coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic, really started to shift the landscape. People were in cities that they couldn't go out and be free. They were stuck inside their homes. They saw Florida was wide open, and that really opened up the floodgates for what I call the pioneers to come in and really start to set roots here. Followed by the settlers, all their friends and the ancillary business partners. So this floodgate of people moving to the state of Florida, I think it's still 1,000 people a day.
It's huge, and I've had occasions recently to go downtown in the evening, and when you can see all those lights on, it's tens of thousands of people are living there.
Not the downtown you grew up in.
No. Yeah. If you got off of Biscayne Boulevard when I grew up and you went west, you're in trouble.
That's it. My mother grew up in the roads, and she remembers riding her bicycle from the roads to Brickell long before the 95 ran through it, and before there were any big buildings there, and they'd go play on the water at on Brickell Bay Drive.
Well, I'm glad you brought up water, because there's only a certain number of properties on water. What is happening to the values of those properties?
So, again, another huge belief of mine is that if you can afford to live on the water or to have an unobstructed water view in Miami and you're moving here, that is a hands down best move you can make. There are some considerations that you need to make when moving to the water, such as sea level rise and flood zones. The Compass app is a great example. You open it up and go to the map section to look for real estate. You click on layers, you click on flood, and and right away you can see where you are or are not in the flood zone. But shockingly, whether you are or are not in a flood zone, as an example, all of Miami Beach is in a flood zone. It does not seem to have an effect on how much people are willing to pay for waterfront real estate.
It is incredible because as you go farther west, people, myself included, why do I have to pay this? Why do I have to pay that? And so, but if you have the view that you want, right, and you have this value that is there, you get it.
I mean, Miami is known for its water life. This is what people come here for, to lay on the beach, to get on a boat, to go swimming, to enjoy this tropical weather that we have. So to have access to that, or to have views of that, unobstructed views of that on the regular, the proof is always in the pudding. I'll show somebody 10 different condos, and the moment they walk into that one condo that's unobstructed water views, and they walk in the front door and they see that panoramic water view, it's always, right? And so that has had an enormous impact on the values of waterfront real estate. I sold a client a home on Lakeview Drive in Miami Beach for $5.15 million in late 2020, right before the winter. He was in the Hamptons for the summer through COVID. He saw the writing on the wall that everybody's going to have to go back to the city, and he wanted to get out. He didn't want to be in New York for the winter. So instead of renting, he decided he would buy a place, paid $5.15 million. It appraised for 3.85. He gets knocks on his door today for $12 and $13 million.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because when we look at what people are still buying houses, some people think they should get it for less than the value. But the reality is that, less than the price, right? What percentage of homes are selling for less than on the luxury market?
We have a lot of sellers that I would say right now one of the biggest disconnects is the list price to sale price, yes. Right? And what the buyer's looking for, or has the buyer's expectations and the seller's expectations. Sellers are still listing at very ambitious pricing, and we are starting to see people keep telling me, "Oh, I'm seeing all these price reductions. Oh, the market's shifting." The reality is that the prices are stabilized. If we look at what's closing, not what's listing and how they reduce their price, if we look at just the final closed sales price averages in Miami, we're seeing that to be stable. In fact, we're seeing that to increase, and depending on the market, 3, 4, 5% year over year.
So even though that the interest rates are higher.
Even though interest rates are higher. And that was, I think we had the market as it stands today is a lot slower than what people got used to in the last year or two, right? 2021, 2022, it was a rapid race. It was a land grab. Anything you could get, grab it. People were waiving contingencies and waiving inspections. They were doing 3-day inspections. They were waiving appraisal contingencies. They were lining up 30, 40, 50 deep at an open house. Those days, the interest rates have affected the velocity of transactional volume, right? We're no longer transacting at the same rate and speed that we were before. Sales overall are down 40 to 50%, depending on the micro market you consider. And so the effect that interest rates seem to have had is to slow down the market. And the inventory is low, so we're also seeing less sales. You have less to sell, you will have less sales. But no, typically you would expect interest rates to rise and prices to fall, and that has not happened, at least in South Florida.
And that's because of what?
And that's because of the demand. We have a very limited supply. Inventory is very low, and we have a very strong demand. The people are still moving here from other states. People are still upgrading their lifestyle. We still have buyers that are out in the market and not enough homes to sell them. And that's like, if I have one thing to tell you, if you're considering a sale, the market is still very strong. The demand for homes is still there. And we're still at a historically high price. We're just not in that place that we were in 2020 and 2021, where you could sell for 10% over your neighbor every single
It's sort of like you go fishing. Sometimes there's a school of dolphin out there, and you catch a lot in a half an hour, and then you go the next day, you don't catch anything. It's just the way that it is. Frequently we hear the term off-market. What does off-market mean?
So it's a term that gets thrown around a lot. And essentially all it means is that it is not being publicly listed on the multiple listing services. It's not on the MLS. So it is not publicly offered, right? It's an off-market property, or more commonly referred to as a private exclusive. But a private exclusive would indicate that an agent has a signed listing agreement without putting it on a public offering. Whereas an off-market could mean that the agent does not have an exclusive. It's just he heard a whisper that these people want to sell, and maybe they don't want to do it publicly. And there's a lot of reasons that somebody might want to sell. A really good example is maybe they don't want to let their work know that they're planning to move. Maybe they have friends or family they haven't yet told that they're considering a move. Maybe it has to do with their children's school. Schools are very tight right now. If the school hears that somebody's maybe not planning to move here next year, it might affect their acceptance for the school following year. So the ability to privately market something in the network of agents and in the off-market world might be appealing to them.
So sometimes I hear people say, "Well, I'm going to list it myself. Why should I hire somebody to sell my home?" And what would be your response? And what do they get from a qualified real estate agency?
Listen, you can represent yourself in court. You don't need an attorney. It's not recommended, right? You don't need to go see a doctor. You can self-medicate, but it's not recommended. And I would say similarly with real estate agents. Maybe all real estate agents are not created equal, and maybe finding the right real estate agent, somebody who does this full-time as a profession, who has a track record and a portfolio that you can count on. But when you have the right real estate agent, it is something like working with your doctor or working with your lawyer or working with your financial advisor. It can be done. People put signs out in the grass all the time, and inventory is low. So you will get bites. You drop that line in the water, there's a lot of demand, and there's not a lot of supply. So you will get nibbles. But I would say having somebody who can coach you through that process, having somebody to be the buffer zone between you and the buyer.
Like when you get upset because they offer you something that's way underneath what you thought your lovely home
or
was
somebody
worth.
Asks you point blank, what you're willing to take for it, and you can't. There's no let me ask my client, or why don't you submit an offer? We'll take it to them. Let's see how it goes. You have to answer that question. You're standing in front of them. You don't create that buffer zone between buyer and seller. But more than that, good agents know how to prepare your home for sale. They'll tell you what to upgrade or renovate and what not to renovate. We'll go through with home stagers and make sure it looks right. Compass has a really great program I think we'll talk about called Compass Concierge, where we front the costs of renovations, not renovations, but upgrades to your home to prepare it for the market.
So you bring up a good point. If somebody decides they want to sell their home and it hasn't been updated in a while, a permanent stuff, not just small amounts of landscaping, and they were going to be in the house for another 5 years or so. Frequently I hear, well, is it worthwhile for me to redo the bathroom, fix the pool, redo the kitchen? What's your take on that?
So every home is unique and would require a little bit of a customized plan, in my opinion. But there are places that I think if you ask realtors across the board, where's the best place to invest in your home? It's kitchen, hands down, always. The kitchen is the heart of the home, much like your body. You want to take care of the heart, and the rest is aesthetics and things that can. But the kitchen is the core, and it's where most families spend the most time. It's where usually the decision maker of the household, is spending a lot of time and care that they want to have an updated kitchen. And when I bought my own home, my wife, I sent her this house and she said, "Oh, look at that kitchen." I said, "The first thing we will replace is the kitchen. Don't look at the rest. I mean, it's a coat of paint. We can do, but I will replace the kitchen immediately." But if the kitchen is done, that's a really great place to start from. After that, curb appeal matters, but there's a lot of really easy ways to enhance curb appeal.
Landscaping and
a little bit of some fresh sod, a coat of paint, some mulch or some rock, pressure cleaning. Very minimal investments can go a very long way in the way your home looks from the street. But it's not as easy to just go in there and renovate a kitchen, right? That requires permits and time. So if you're thinking about selling in the long term, or you're planning to make upgrades to your home that will have a bigger impact down the line when you are ready to sell, the kitchen's a really great place to do that. In South Florida, impact windows is another very important place. The roof is a very important place.
You realize in the kitchen, that's where everybody sort of hangs out. And my take on it, if you're not going to enjoy the kitchen, then why are you going to do it? If it's just an investment, all right?
Well, you should do it for your own enjoyment,
yes.
But you always want to think about what the future resale value might look like, and just know that there are trends and fads in design and fashion that don't always translate to all buyers. So, I always advise to stick with a more traditional kitchen that will appeal to all. I see people doing black countertops, and they look great, but then you have buyers that come in and have no interest in a black concrete countertop. So, relatively more traditional, is my opinion.
And so if somebody's going to redo the kitchen, they got to love it, all right? Because if you're going to be in the house for another 5 years, if you put in something because you think you're going to sell the house in 5 or 6 or 10 years from now, and you don't like the countertop, every time you have guests over, you're like bemoaning that decision. So, so after careful consideration with your spouse and somebody's going to help you with it, other than the person that's selling it to you, right? There's some friends that probably have some designers that hate to help us out with that.
But I'll tell you, the strongest segment of the market, in fact, of any market across, and I've networked regularly. I'm in mastermind calls, weekly Zoom calls, and I even get my butt on a plane and I fly to different markets. I was in New York last week. I'll be in Westchester in the Hamptons in the end of August. I'm going to be in San Diego in November. I spend a good amount of time talking to agents around the country, and the one unanimous factor that I would say is the best performing segment of the market is a turnkey home. Right now, we are just in a place where construction costs have doubled. The red tape to cut through, especially with cities like Coral Gables and Pinecrest and Miami Beach, to get permitting and get all that stuff done is difficult. Getting qualified contractors, getting reliable contractors, and most of the buyers out there that are buying a $2 million house can't cook an egg, let alone design a kitchen. So the reality of having a turnkey option where they don't have to go through renovating a bathroom or kitchen or doing any of that work is across the nation the best performing segment of any market. Your house is turnkey, people will pay a premium for that.
So we understand about the process being painless and pain-free. We know if you go to Amazon, they made that almost perfect. Find your thing, you click on it, and it's done. Versus walk into a store and try to do that.
I bought a suitcase the other day, and I literally I did some research online. I clicked a link. It took me to Amazon. I clicked buy now, and then it asked me to confirm the purchase. I think there were 3 clicks involved, and a suitcase showed up at my door.
And so it is when you buy a house. If you have to look around and go, I got to do all this stuff.
And my last house, the last house that I bought was a turnkey option. We bought it with the furniture. We bought it completely updated, stud, pillar to pillar, and perfectly landscaped. And in fact, again, furnishings, pots and pans, sous vides, Nespressos. They took their art off the walls and their clothing, and they left. And at the time, I was so busy that convenience had a value. The appraisal came in 20% below what we paid for it, and I didn't care. We figured it out with the lender and found a way to make it work, because for me that convenience mattered. And as the market continued, when we found this next house, which is a house on the water, because I do believe, again, and if you can get yourself a place on the water, you should. We found this great house in Coral Gables on the waterway, high elevation, so we have zero concerns for flooding. We're not even required to have flood insurance, but the house required a full renovation. For us, that was a big decision to go and do that. And we knew that we'd be adding a lot of value. So I was willing to go and put the work where some people might not be. And I think for people that are looking for value plays, that's where you want to look. With that said, we ended up selling the previous house within the same year. It was just an unexpected transaction that we came across this opportunity and we had to flip it. But we did flip it, and we sold it for 30% more than we paid for it. Again, keeping in mind it appraised for 20% less. So we had a significant profit margin in that, specifically because it was completely turnkey, and that will always have a value. So again, constantly spending time upgrading your home seems like a pain, and yes, it can get expensive. But when you are ready to sell, you'll be very happy you spent the time modifying and upgrading your home.
And what are the areas that are your expertise in?
So I have this expression that I like to do real estate where my golf cart and my boat will take me. So, if it's waterfront real estate, I'm a little bit more friendly to go into some different markets because it tends to be right up my alley. And waterfront real estate is something I understand and know very well and love to do. But I live in Coral Gables. My office is in Coconut Grove. My children go to school in Pinecrest. So really this Gables Grove, Pinecrest, South Miami, Ponce Davis, High Pines, this little sector down here of South Dade, just below Brickell, is where I spend most of my time and where I'm most affluent. I grew up in Miami Beach, and I spend a significant amount of my days in Miami Beach as well, so I know it well. It's not in my backyard per se. The downtown Brickell corridor is all within our reach, and on occasion we'll go as far as Aventura or Sunny Isles. But That's really the further ending reach. I do believe real estate's local. And so it is better to find somebody who lives and breathes your neighborhood to help in those real estate. So I have a great network of agents. If it's something in Fort Lauderdale or Boca Raton or Palm Beach, I won't touch it. I'll bring in somebody else to handle that for us and know that they'll take care of their client better than I could.
So we know there's three famous words in real estate.
So
Location,
location, and location.
Yes.
Yes.
Because people want to be in those areas. Tell us about the attendance at private schools in your area.
I will. And just to dial back for just a moment, in regards to location, real estate news is also location based. And I think a common mistake people make is that they spend too much time listening to what the national news says about real estate. Right? Robert Refkin asked me about Boynton Beach real estate. I just don't know much more to tell you than what you can Google yourself. The same with Palm Beach. I understand maybe more than the average person, but I don't. It's not my area. So I do try to keep it as local as possible. So that's, again, where the golf cart would take me is where I try to keep it. And I think when you're shopping for a real estate professional to walk you through this process, you should really be looking for somebody that really knows that area, that neighborhood, and that could maybe drive there on their golf cart, right?
So back to the schools. What's about attendance and waiting lines, if you will?
Well, as we're seeing so many people come from other markets, some of our biggest feeder markets are obviously New York, DC, some of the New York sub-scary markets like Westchester County, the Jersey suburbs. That's where it still plays into New York City. People can work in the city and live in those suburbs. So that's a huge feeder for us. We're seeing a lot of people come from Chicago. Citadel alone is bringing 1,000 people to come live in Miami. For the record, we don't have 1,000 houses to sell people, so they're trickling those people in. And the next year, they're planning to bring about 200 over. But again, 200 is a lot of people to come. And where are they coming? They're going to be coming for the schools, right? So they're going to be looking at Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, and Pinecrest, because that's where all the private schools. That's where we have Carrollton and Ransom and Gulliver and Belen and so on and so forth. So the lines are long and the acceptance is tight. We had a lot of clients that came through. Well, not any of my clients, but clients that were making offers on homes I listed that were hoping to get into certain schools and sadly got waitlisted. There are consultants that we work with that will guide you through those processes, that will explain to you what you should or should not say and how to fill out certain applications and what to get involved in and how to best poise yourself to get accepted into these schools. But it's getting tighter. I'd say we need more schools than we have.
It certainly has shifted. And when we see a lot of those lines at the private schools, it's really because their folks have enough money to be able to do that. What's a price range for tuition? You don't have to name the school in particular.
I mean, most of them don't start at less than $35 or so a year, and that's at the entry level. But they're more than that, 40, 50, 60. Yes. Still not as bad as what I'm hearing in some other neighborhoods, in other areas like New York City. Some people are still considering it a bargain.
Okay, and that's not college, that's school.
That's just, middle school, high school, in some cases elementary school. I think some of the elementary schools are starting at around 30-something.
Wow.
There are alternative options, and I think for people that are moving here from areas, so as an example, people move out of the city and they go to Westchester. They pay much higher taxes in Westchester, but they have great public schools. I'd say the closest parallel that we have to that would be Pinecrest. You have Pinecrest Elementary, is probably the best public elementary school in the state, and if you're within a certain property line, you're guaranteed entry. But if you're not guaranteed entry, because you're not zoned for that school, people don't realize that there is something called, Florida has something called school choice. And while it's not guaranteed, and I don't advise people to buy a home hoping that they'll get accepted into these other schools, if the school is not at full capacity, you have a pretty good chance of getting your child transferred into that school. You need some kind of a reason, but it's doable. And we know a lot of people that have done it and that are taking advantage of the best school zones without necessarily living in them.
So we have a few minutes left, but let's talk about a properly priced home in today's market. More or less, what would you say it would take before you start getting some reasonable offers? Properly priced.
So there's a lot of factors to that. It's important to keep in mind that right now it's summer. There's a lot of people traveling and that couldn't travel for years prior. They're off visiting family or getting their sillies out. And the market, in the general rule, it's a little slower. We're seeing homes on the market for 30, 60, 90 days, but properly priced and in good condition, we're still seeing homes sell in a week. Again, different price points play differently. I brought a house to market in Pinecrest for 5.9, and it was properly priced. It was completely turnkey and gorgeously updated, and we had 3 offers cash above asking, all within a week. But meanwhile, we see homes that are a little overpriced and maybe still need a little bit of love that are sitting on the market 100, 160, 180, 200 days. And I think if your home's been sitting on the market for 200 days, it's time to have a conversation with your realtor about making a price adjustment.
We do have a question from a viewer, and it says, at what point when someone wants to sell their home, should they upgrade appliances or redo a pool or prepare the house for sale? And what about upgrading pool deck? Would it increase the value of your home?
It'll certainly increase the value of your home to make upgrades, and again, investments in the right locations in your home. I would always say, as I did before, invest in the kitchen. The sooner, you don't want to do it if you're planning to sell your home in 10 years. Maybe wait a little while to upgrade your kitchen. If that way, when you do get closer to selling your home, all your appliances are still new and everything's still up fresh and clean. But if you're planning to sell your home anytime in the next few years, go ahead and do that kitchen renovation. Yeah. Enjoy it for the time that you need it. And when you turn around and sell it,
and it seems to me, if you were going to upgrade the kitchen, that includes new appliances, upgraded appliances.
Yes.
I would have new cabinets.
I have a client who recently did a full renovation of an apartment, and they left the brown granite countertops, and you made this huge investment, and the kitchen still looks old. I would say go the extra mile. Make sure all the appliances are changed. Make sure the countertops are updated. Paint everything. Maybe even new lighting. If you're doing a renovation, go in to the best you can.
Because we know when you walk into a home, wherever it is, and say, why did they miss that?
Yeah.
And it's like this whole other conversation that does not need to take place.
Yeah, but other investments that I really think we're talking the best investment you can make in your home is deep, thorough cleaning and making sure that it's freshly painted and freshly grouted and nicely landscaped. And these are things that you can do over time that make a huge difference. I mean, we take houses to market, and I tell people all the time, with zero insult, let's hire a professional team to come in here, 2 or 3 cleaning people to just get deep into places that you tend to forget about or miss, because the buyers will look at those places. You haven't seen them. You just forget. You walk past that door every day and you open and close it, or you go to flip that light switch on or off, and you forget how many hands have touched it and how it will pop.
There is a auto lease return company. What they do is they do a deep cleaning on your car. It goes in terrible, it comes out, and you say, it could be older, but it's brand new. Everything is shiny. They got all the dirt that was down there, perfect. So that's how you want to keep it.
It's funny because I'm about to buy out the lease to my car because car leases have doubled, and it just doesn't make sense for me to upgrade yet at the moment. So my car has very, very low mileage. We put miles on the golf cart and a lot of Ubers, but we're planning to buy out the lease, and I'm looking at it and going, if I'm going to buy it, I'd like it to feel like I bought a brand new car. So I almost want to take it in and have somebody detail the whole thing and just make it do the same thing that a dealer would do. If I had sold it back to them and before they go out to put it on the lot and put it for sale, I want that service, right? Because it makes a difference. You get in your car, and it may be an old car, but you see the car on the lot, and it looks a whole lot different than when they took it in as a trade-in.
Yes.
Right? Same car. And what did they do? Minor upgrades, little paint, little wax, tire changes.
So as we're wrapping up here, what suggestions, recommendations would you suggest to somebody who's thinking about either buying a home or selling it? What are some things they should consider?
So first thing I would advise is to sit with your real estate advisor, really get a feel of where the market is, and have the right expectations. Again, if you're working with the right real estate advisor, you should be able to take their word and feel comfortable with it. If your advisor's telling you that inventory is low and that your money doesn't go as far as you think it will, and that you need to maybe push your budget, or you need to be open to buying that house without the pool, or getting that house just outside the neighborhood that you're looking for, I would consider those options, because what we're seeing very regularly is people don't take that advice, and instead of getting the home they wanted in 1 month, they wind up dragging it out for 6 months before they finally come to terms with pushing their price, before they finally come to terms with making sacrifices on maybe a smaller lot than you had a hope for. I have a lot of clients that wanted minimum 15,000 square foot lots, and now they missed out on so many homes because they would not settle for less than 15,000 square feet, and now they're happy if it has 7,800 square feet. They don't care anymore. They just need a good home, and time is running out. It's better to have time on your side. And to sellers, I'd say be reasonable. We are not in the 2021 market, but we are still in one of the best real estate markets Miami has ever seen. We are at historically high prices. And if you take advantage of that and you price just right, the buyers will recognize that, and they'll see that. When you price too ambitiously these days, we are just seeing that translate into days on market. Buyers are squeezed by interest rates, and they are taking their time. They are more cautious. They are less motivated, and they're waiting for things to change. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that happen. So the advice to buyers is get in the game. If interest rates come down later, you can always go and refinance, but take advantage of it right now while everybody else is a little hesitant. If rates were to drop tomorrow, I know alone, I have so many buyers that are joking because of the interest rates that if rates drop to 5.5%, they would be flooding in. And I think we would see that very quickly. You'd see Robert Refkin talk about that, Barbara Corcoran talk about that, Ron Sheffield talk about that. We see people, everybody's opinion is that the demand is so strong that the interest rates have slowed down the velocity of sales, but not the prices, which means that if interest rates come down, that demand is still there, and buyers are going to flood the market. You might very likely start seeing lines at open houses again. So
Levi Meyer,
take advantage.
From Compass Real Estate. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us, folks, and have a great day. Bye.